Hello, friends. Welcome to the Maitri podcast Between Friends, Conversation with Maitri. I'm your host, Nandini Ray, and today I'm bringing in Dr. Zakia Afrin, manager of Maitri's client advocacy programs, to discuss Maitri's work in this time of global pandemic. Before we start discussing the present day crisis and our work in handling this unique situation, I would like to give our listeners a small introduction about Maitri. Maitri was formed in 1991. At the time, there was a need in our community for a place where South Asian immigrants who were facing domestic violence could call in for help. From that need, a group of volunteers started this agency in someone's kitchen, can you believe it, with a single phone line. And Maitri actually started as a bridge between a South Asian community and mainstream services that were already there to help TB survivors. So after 29 years, we are seeing Maitri as a robust agency with 14 staff members and about 50 volunteers. And since 1991, Maitri has been providing culturally responsive, free and confidential support to survivors of domestic violence. Maitri Helpline is the first point of entry to all our services. Maitri Helpline, which is 1-888-8 MAITRI, is live from Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. with voice message checked outside those hours. And based on our callers' needs, we connect them to our other programs. Like we have a legal advocacy program, we have transitional housing where women and their children who are the survivors of domestic violence, fleeing violence, they can stay and we help them with case management and whatever they need to so that they can reach to their goals. We have economic empowerment program through which we help our clients so that they can be financially independent. We have mental health and peer counseling program. Better you visit Maitri website to know about our services in detail. That is www.maitri.org, MAITRI. So listeners, as you all know that we are experiencing a unique situation right now, and to control the spread of COVID-19 virus, we are following shelter-in-place order and maintaining social distancing since March 17th in this Santa Clara County. It is an unimaginable change for all of us, and none of us were prepared for it. And I'm sure that all of you are learning new things, adjusting with the new changes, situation. And at Maitri, we are also doing the same. We are modifying our work strategies, our protocols, our work procedures to support the most vulnerable section of our community, and that is survivors of domestic violence and their children. So today, Zakia is here. She's one of our client advocates at Maitri, and she's the manager of our client advocacy programs. So she's working with our clients very closely and seeing their day-to-day challenges. So I believe she can share a lot of inside information about the challenges survivors, our clients, survivors of domestic violence, they are facing, how Maitri is providing critical support to them, and how domestic violence advocacy field is responding to this crisis. So another thing I would like to mention that we are doing this show not only to talk about that how Maitri staff and trained volunteers are working hard through this crisis to help our clients, but we also want to discuss and disseminate information on how one can get help if they are trapped in with their abusers, what they can do to keep themselves safe, and if they are locked in with their abusers, and what are the resources out there that can help, and what community members, you, our listeners, our supporters, what you can do to help. So welcome, Zakia. Let's start our conversation.
Thank you, Nandini. It's a very trying times that we are all living through. This pandemic is something unprecedented. None of us have ever lived through such a crisis. I want to begin today's conversation by quoting the United Nations Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, who stated on April 5, 2020. Peace is not just the absence of war. Many women under lockdown for COVID-19 face violence where they should be safest, in their own homes. Today, I appeal for peace in homes around the world. I urge all governments to put women's safety first as they respond to the pandemic. The pandemic is creating a lot of anxiety among all of us. All the people in the world today are uncertain about the economic future, our future for this this world, and what will happen in the next few months or even next few years. On top of it, people who are undergoing domestic violence, living in abusive relationships, this is a much more complex problem for them. And organizations like ours, Maitri, and many others around the United States, we are trying to see how we can make the best use of the current resources and help the survivors.
So you were right, Zakia. And you know what? For many listeners, I would like to say that domestic violence is a silent epidemic that has existed in our communities long before this COVID situation. And unfortunately, it is still very much alive and thriving. And as you said, that in this situation, even we see that a lot of cases, if you see international reports, they are already documenting a rise in domestic violence from Brazil to Germany, Italy to China. Everywhere, activists and survivors say that they are already seeing an alarming rise in abuse, in domestic violence, intimate partner violence cases. So, Zakia, you just tell us that how is COVID-19 pandemic affecting survivors of domestic violence and their children? And what kind of challenges Maitri clients are facing?
Now, as you correctly pointed out, that this is a silent epidemic that we have been dealing with for a long time. In our organization, last year alone, when we did not have any health care crisis going on, we had more than 500 survivors working with us in many different areas. Today, because of the shelter in place situation, we see that first time callers who are reaching out for help has actually gone down quite a bit because people don't have a safe space to call for help anymore, because some of the survivors are actually staying within the confine of homes, and they are not at liberty to reach out to family or friends or even organizations when they need that help. So many first time callers we are fearing that are not able to reach us. Now, even then, the numbers of murder suicide have gone up in the United States. The statistics that are coming out from many different parts tell us that the calls for help to the law enforcement have also gone up. Now, these are the people who are able to get away. Now, and the larger number that are not able to do anything about that, they are still in that situation, that, and we are very, very concerned about how we can reach them and let them know that if they decided to leave, there are still avenues that they can reach out to. Most of the domestic violence agencies are still functioning, even though remotely. There are shelter facilities that are available, and where there are lack of shelters, many cities and counties are coming out with moteling funding for survivors. So if somebody wanted to get away, it is a possibility. Police is still taking calls for any emergencies. Courts are still open for emergency protection orders, and our agencies like ours are taking calls for figuring out a safety plan with people who need to flee. Now, having said that, there are other groups that we are actually hearing a lot more than what we heard from them a few months back. If I can give you a statistics, in our agency, we have seen about 70% rise in calls from survivors who are in between an abusive relationship and getting towards a self-sustained life. So these are the survivors who have taken that very difficult first step to get out of that abusive situation. Now they are trying to get their rights materialized through the courts. They are trying to get back in the workforce. They are trying to revamp the self-confidence that they may have lost during that abusive relationship cohabitation. Now, these are the folks that are actually in a very, very vulnerable situation because many of them have not yet figured out the economic self-sufficiency. So they are still somewhat dependent either on the other party or government benefits and whatnot. Now, as you know, Nandini, so many people have filed for unemployment benefits. So many people are losing jobs in the United States. And so many people are not able to pay their rents. In these groups, we have our survivors in these groups, and those are the calls that we are getting more than ever before for financial help, for emotional help. Now, mental health is usually not seen as a priority in many of our communities, but I can tell you this shelter in place had brought out a major need for people's mental health care. A lot of our survivors are revisiting the trauma of when they used to be in that controlling situation. They could not go out on their own. They were not allowed to do anything on their own. They were not allowed to decide for themselves. Now it again can feel like they're going back to that kind of a situation when the system is telling, of course, for their own good, for health, for the community, for everybody's good, but because of the experience some of the survivors have had, it's becoming very difficult for them to deal with this shelter in place situation. So we are trying to provide emotional support, trying to provide therapy for someone who definitely needs it. And that's how we are trying to use our resources now during this COVID-19 crisis.
Yeah, you are so right, Zakia, that many of domestic violence survivors, they are facing the threat of homelessness. They are facing threat of job loss, disabled. I mean, they don't know what to do in this kind of situation, lockdown situation, this kind of pandemic, global pandemic. Nobody is ready for this kind of situation. But when someone is going through trauma and abused by their own, so it's adding extra layers of anxiety, depression, and they are clueless that what will be happening with them tomorrow. So this is very challenging situation for them. For our listeners, I can share one client stories. She actually escaped with her two children a few months ago from an abusive situation. She was attending multiple court hearings in a month, taking ESL classes to get better at speaking English, and preparing to file a petition seeking independent immigration status. COVID-19 has stopped her in her tracks, and her court hearing to get financial support from the abuser, her hopes for improving her language skills, to get by independently, and process to change her immigration status has all stalled due to the current crisis. And in the meantime, she is struggling to pay rent, buy everyday essentials, while also experiencing severe emotional turmoil. So I am sharing this story to give our listeners an idea what kind of turmoil, what kind of pain our survivors, our clients are going through. And Zakia, if you can share what kind of critical support is Maitri offering to DV survivors to cope with this kind of situation?
Yeah, so Nandini, the story you just shared, that's definitely just gives a glimpse of what many of our clients are going through. So that is somebody who has escaped from an abusive relationship. I also want to share about another situation where you can see as advocates, one of the first lessons we learn is not to tell anybody that they need to leave the relationship if they are not ready. We don't ask people, why are you not just leaving? Why don't you just leave? So people make their own decision based on many different issues that we may not be thinking about. Having said that, so how do people cope with living through an abuse, not leaving for whatever reason they may be, and moving on with their lives? So many of those folks are always keeping in touch with us. So I wanted to share one such situation where I was working with a client who was looking for a job desperately because her way of escaping from her abuser was to stay outside of the home for certain hours in a day. She made peace with herself that if I can survive few hours without this constant emotional and physical and mental torture, I will be able to stay in the relationship. And I will be, in her mind, she decided that for her child, it was in her best interest to stay in that relationship. So that was her decision, and the job was really very important for her, not just because she wanted to earn money, also because she wanted to get away. Now, when I think about that person who is now in that situation, having to sit at home and not allowed outside if she's not an essential worker, and a lot of people have lost their jobs. If you think of daycares, if you think of the food industry, those jobs are really not there anymore. So somebody who was trying to have a few hours in a day free from abuse, that is also stopped now. So how do we answer this kind of a situation? How do we offer somebody any service when this is the case, right? This person is not ready to leave the relationship, but it is for her own benefit. She needs to get out. What to do? So we don't have answers for everybody, but what we tell people is that our helpline is open from 9 to 3 every day other than the weekend, and people can leave messages after hours when our volunteers pick up the messages regularly to provide assistance. And if somebody needs to plan a strategy to leave an abusive relationship or just need some emotional support, they can call our helpline, talk to our advocates. They are free not to share their name if they're not comfortable. You do not have to share any identifying information if you don't want to do that. Just want to talk to somebody, call our helpline. Then, not just the emotional support, if you are further impacted due to COVID-19 crisis and need any kind of assistance to get through this difficult time, call us and we may be able to help you. If we are not able to help you, we may be able to give you some referrals for where you can get help.
Here, I want to add one thing that many community members, they don't, probably they don't know that fleeing domestic violence and child abuse in this kind of lockdown situation is allowed. Sometimes people don't have that kind of information. So whenever you want to take any step or want to discuss your rights and option, please call Maitri Helpline, and it is open Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. and discuss your situation with our helpline advocates. Yeah,
it is true. Because of the pandemic, there is an extra stress on the law enforcement, on the healthcare facilities. But still, if somebody is trying to flee from domestic violence, they are calling 911 for urgent assistance. It is still available. The court is still issuing restraining orders. What they are not able to do is hold a hearing as soon as possible. Maybe the only very urgent issues are being heard by the judges right now. And for if somebody needs protection, they can get protection, and the hearing will be scheduled when the shelter in place is not there, if that is the situation. If it is an urgent situation, requires a judge's attention, that is still possible. So please find out and don't think that nothing is going to happen. If you need the help, there is always help. We also tell people that, okay, if somebody is not ready to leave, we will not ask anyone to leave if they're not ready, they have not made that decision themselves, but always have a safety plan. What if relationship is really getting worse? What if the physical violence is getting to a point that it's unbearable? creating a safety plan to leave if need be. So I don't want to talk too much about the details about a safety plan, because this is something that has to be done one on one, depending on the person's need. It's not a one size fits all situation. So we help with those kind of situations as well. In our helpline, we will help you create a safety plan for yourself and your family members.
So before we talk about safety plan, I would like you to talk about how we are helping our clients, providing critical support. For example, their ration, food, anything, any grant, or if you want to talk about how we are helping our clients who are residing at our transitional housing.
So I'll get to that. Just one more point that I wanted to mention is practicing self-care. Let's say you are living in an abusive relationship, you don't want to leave, and you also don't want to call, or you don't have the ability to right now to make a call safely to a domestic violence organization. Make sure you take care of yourself. If there is a friend you can talk to safely and that gives you some peace of mind, please do that. Whatever makes you feel a little bit of peace, feel calm and not over anxious, because already many women are under stress because kids are homeschooling, and that actually means a lot more work for moms, practically speaking. It's a lot going on. The anxiety about the social situation, the economic situation, and of course, this abusive situation at home. So, self care is very important at this time. I just wanted to reiterate that. And in terms of Nandini, what you mentioned about what kind of resources we can provide. So, all the counties, Santa Clara County, Alameda County, San Mateo, I'm just going to mention these three because we have more clients in these areas, but otherwise also your county, your city, they have lot of food banks, they have many resources where you can find financial help information, where you can get free groceries or whatnot. You can also call us for that information. We have compiled a list of all these help where they're available. It's also on our website. And also, if you are confused, it's just too much information for you, call us and specifically tell us, this is where I am. I'm looking for resources to help me file for unemployment benefit, or this is, I'm helping for some rental help. Where can I get? If you are a domestic violence survivors, there may be some special help available for you, and also for general public there is a lot of help. Just today I was listening in the radio that in Alameda County Food Bank is serving almost 300,000 people right now. That's a lot of people that they are trying to help. So folks who need the help can definitely get the help. And to find out more, you can feel free to call us or go to our website and look up resources.
Here, I want to add that our clients, when they are calling us with their needs and based on their needs, we are helping them, whatever their needs, we are assessing the needs and we are helping them. We are either connecting with the right resources or we are providing the help. And Zakia, since you were talking about self-care, that is also very important. Like being quarantined with an abusive partner can create fear, increased abuse, or life-threatening situation for DV survivors. So how one can be safe or reach out for help in a time of need? So in that case, we would like to tell you that if you are in some kind of, as Zakia pointed out, if you are in any kind of immediate danger, always you can call or text 911. But if you think that you need to talk to someone just to have a safety plan in place, please call us. Please call Maitri Helpline. And first of all, you must know that if you are in an abusive relationship, it's not your fault now or ever. So everyone deserves to be treated with respect, dignity, and love. And if you are facing abuse and violence, do not suffer in silence. There are help out there. And if you are trapped because of this COVID-19 situation, you must develop a plan to try to stay safe. And as Zakia pointed out, it depends on individual case. Everyone's case is not same. We are unique individual. Our situation is different. So based on that, we need to work on our safety plan. You can, as a community member, know who you can reach out to. If you have any friend, if you have any family member that you can talk, you can call and share your fear, or your phone can be your lifeline. Keep that on hand all the time. Keep your phone charged all the time, and know who to call and know how to get help. And first thing, you must know that there are 5 agencies in Santa Clara County. They are providing free and confidential help if you are abused in your own home. So you can call them. And Zakia, you want to add anything else?
Yes, so Nandini, there are safe chat options also available by few of the agencies. We are not part of that safe chat group, but if people are finding it difficult to make phone calls, they can actually go to safe chat and do that. At the end of this program, we will provide you with this with the information which website to go, and they have specific timings. You can connect with them if that works for you. All of this that we are providing services, court is open, police is open, but it also reminds us that intervention cannot be the only policy. Intervention and then trying to rehabilitate a survivor, that cannot be the only goal that DB organizations or even any policy maker should have. We need to know how we can prevent this situation. Prevention was always important, but right now we are realizing it more than ever that this problem should not happen in the first place when people need to stay home for their own physical well-being, but home cannot be safe. That is just an unacceptable situation. So I think more than ever, we need to focus on our prevention efforts. I know that Nandini, you are deeply involved in that. Can you talk a little bit about how you are engaging in prevention when we are actually forced to work remotely? We are not really going places anymore.
So, Zakir, that's a very important point you were touching now. I would love to talk about it. At Maitri, first of all, at Maitri, we believe domestic violence is not someone's personal problem. Many people think that it's someone's personal problem and we shouldn't talk about it. So that's why it's a taboo topic in our community. So actually, it's a community issue. And unless we engage community in addressing the issue, and unless we educate our community and engage them in raising awareness, we cannot end DV. So that's the main thing. And we are doing a lot of to educate and engage our community. Before the COVID situation, we used to do a lot of presentation workshops for community members, whether it is adult community members or teens. We used to do booth, but these last 2 months we are maintaining social distancing. So we cannot do actually the physical presentation and booth, but that doesn't mean that we have stopped engaging or educating our community, because raising awareness about this issue, domestic violence is not a one-time thing. It's happening from several years, and it can happen to anybody. What we are doing right now, we are using our online platforms extensively to raise awareness on our Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. We are posting a lot of articles to educate our community about the issue, about the severeness, about the seriousness, about the magnitude of the problem. And we are seeing that people are communicating, they are posting comments, they are asking questions, they are sometimes sharing that they didn't know anything about this issue and now they are learning. So that is a good step for engaging community. So our Engaging Men and Boys campaign, we are still doing. Many times men think they are excluded from this issue, and this is not their problem, this is not their issue. Domestic violence is women's problem. But we cannot forget that if you see the statistics, those who are harming, those who are perpetrators, most of the times they are men and boys. So it is important to engage them if we want to prevent domestic violence. So our Engaging Men and Boys campaign is a great initiative, and we are seeing that men and high school boys, college boys, male students, they are sharing their thoughts on preventing violence against women, on preventing intimate partner violence, and they are sending their blurb to us to so that we can share that on our social media platforms for all community members. I'm so happy, so glad to share that many men and many boys, they are against domestic violence. They want to do something to prevent, and they are joining the campaign. They are joining the movement. And also, we are using our radio podcast extensively to engage, to educate our community members, and we are getting a lot of feedbacks that after listening your podcast, I came to know that domestic violence is not only the physical violence; it can be mental abuse or psychological abuse or financial abuse or sexual abuse. So that kind of information we are disseminating through our podcast. 2 weeks back, I think we did a show on child abuse prevention month. I got 2 emails from community members. That's a wonderful show, and I didn't know that there are resources out there where we can report child abuse. So this kind of platform, we are using our online platform extensively, and I'm hoping that we will be able to do more. As our prevention program, I would also want to focus on our policy advocacy part. Zakia, you are part of policy advocacy. Would you like to share some of your thoughts?
Yes, Nandini. So for policy advocacy, mostly we last week we met with the lawmakers in Sacramento. Of course, we met them virtually and requested $15 million budget allocation for prevention work that most domestic violence agencies are doing. We also wanted them to continue to fund the shelter-based programs and non-shelter-based programs. Now, we have to really appreciate the fact that this situation is very new. So we need to come up with what are the challenges that we are facing that we did not think about before. For example, just think about it. Most of our work, most of our meetings and all of this sharing, prevention, or even direct client services, everything is happening remotely via online services. As organizations, we were not prepared to do that. We are not so focused on technology. We work one-on-one. So how we are dealing with this situation, and if this becomes the new normal, what are the new resources that domestic violence organizations need? Do we need support for funding new and innovative technological services? Do we need training to understand how we can safely provide services to survivors who are already, we know so much about technological unsafe situations where hacking is a regular thing these days in meetings, and of course people in domestic violence situations, most of them are monitored 24/7. Their online activities are constantly being monitored. How do we develop a safe relationship? So there is a lot of new things that are coming at us, and we have to think both from our direct services lens and also in terms of policy, what all we can ask for, what all we need to work efficiently to help the survivors. I also want to mention something that we always talk about. Going back to how you started, that domestic violence is not a new thing. We have been dealing with it for a very long time. And at our agency and many other agencies, we understand that domestic violence is not a standalone issue. We cannot solve domestic violence unless we address poverty, unless we address criminal justice reform, unless we address the immigration related injustice that is happening right now in the US. How do you deal with a situation when, for safety purposes, you need to release all these prisoners, and then many of them have committed violent acts against women? So how do we balance this need to release them versus the need for safety of the victims that they have harmed before and may come after again, right? So there are a lot of these pieces that we need to figure out before we actually can say, yes, now we are ready, we are providing services properly. We are just learning as we go at this moment, and we will see in the coming days what comes. We definitely need all the help we can get from every sector in our society, the community members that you mentioned, the systems, our policymakers, everybody.
Yes, you are so right that there are so many overlapping intersection of abuse and situation that are having impact on domestic violence cases and situation. And another thing you mentioned that engage community members if we want to prevent, if we want to end. And I would like to us to discuss about what community members can do to help. Sometimes community members, I know they want to help, but they don't know how to help, or sometimes they don't know if we require help from them. So they think it is not my problem, it is not happening in my family. Why should I even bother? Why should I even care? But it is affecting all of us directly and indirectly, and all of us must do something. To prevent it. So, can we discuss that how community members can help in prevention?
First of all, Nandini, I'd like to mention that when somebody reaches out, first thing we need to do is believe that person, right? We don't have to do anything, just to listen to someone and not question, what did you do? You know, no, I know this person is a good, this person is really good. How can you say that? There must be something that you did that this incident happened. When somebody is reaching out about domestic violence, understand that it takes a lot for anyone to bring out their private fear, a very private story to another human being, right? So, first of all, is believing them. And if they know of any resources, ask them if they want to contact somebody, because that person may not want to contact somebody. Maybe she just wants to talk, he just wants to talk and get some moments of peace. In that case, the person who the other person is reaching out to could just listen. If they don't want to listen, they can say, I don't think I'm the right person. Why don't you call this DV agency, or why don't you call this person, this number, and try to talk to them. So that should be number one. Number two is not to advise somebody without understanding the laws of this country, the complexities that any one person's life may have. So not just randomly give advice that you should just leave or call the police, or these kind of things. Of course, if somebody's life is in danger, there is no question of calling the police. Calling the police is always an option when someone is fearing for their life or any kind of physical injury. But for every situation, calling the police may not be the remedy, right? So understanding, keeping resources, if they have resources, they can share, and asking that person what they would like them to do, how they want to be helped. If that person want to be helped in a certain way, try to see if you can help. If you cannot help, maybe you can find someone who can help.
Yeah, we all can play a role in looking out for each other and preventing violence, because when someone is abused, first they reach out to their neighbors or family members or colleagues, another community member, before they reach out to most of the cases, before they call police or before they call any agency. So when they are reaching out to you as a friend or family members or neighbors, and if you tell them, yes, it is not your fault, I trust you and let me help you, how can I help you, then it is a big help. And if you start asking what did you do, do you provoke that abuse, then you start victim blaming. So that we all must remember that we shouldn't be judgmental, we should try to help. And first of all, we all need to educate ourselves about the issue, because domestic violence is real and it can happen to anyone. So it's not that, oh, it's not happening with me, and that means it will not happen with my children. It is not like that. So it is okay. It is actually good to know about the resources. It is actually good to know that how you can help somebody. It is actually good to know that there are resources, free agencies out there, and that can help in a proper way, and it is okay to connect them with those resources. I would like to share some information in this situation, in this COVID situation. If someone is reaching out to you that they need help, first of all, tell them that this is not their fault. Abuse is happening, it's not their fault, victim's fault. And then you can ask them to call or text 911 if that is an emergency. The National Domestic Violence Hotline, which is open 24/7, that is 1-800-799-7233. You can Google search. Santa Clara County Child Abuse and Neglect Hotline is also open 24/7. That is 1-833-SCC, Santa Clara County, KIDS, kids, or 1-833-722-5437. You can again Google search, and whoever is reaching out to you and asking for any resource, you can give that resource to them. And you can always give Maitri's number, Maitri's helpline number, so that they can reach out to us. And first of all, you can help prevent domestic violence before it starts by teaching your kids that relationships should be based on mutual respect, trust, and equality, and honesty. And let them know that abuse and violence, perpetrating abuse and violence on anyone is bad and unacceptable. So you utilize this time. You are all family members. Now we are all in a lockdown, and we can see each other more frequently than we used to. So use this time to talk to your children on healthy relationship, and how someone can help someone who is going through abuse. Sakia, do you want to add anything?
Yes, Nandini, I just wanted to add a tip for the community members. You said what people can do to prevent domestic violence and all. We all need to look inwards, look into our families, how we are treating each other, how husband and wife is interacting in front of the children, how our male child and female child are being brought up. If there is any discrimination, even though unintended, are we treating them in any way one superior to the other? And how we are interacting with our partners. This is very important, and we can start from our own household and try to have a healthy relationship model for everybody else, looking out for anything that objectifies a woman, making jokes about either racist jokes or jokes that are gender inappropriate, those kind of things. Violence and degradation of women, these things are never funny. So trying to avoid those kind of situation and create a respectful society where all genders can thrive equally and not looking down upon anyone. I think that is one big contribution that community members can make. In terms of the COVID-19, I will also mention that Maitri website, we have a lot of resources. We have links to resources in many different South Asian languages. So please go visit our website and see if you need something, your neighbor needs something, or you know someone who may find these things useful.
I would also like to add Maitri helpline number, that is 1-888-8MAITRI Maitri, or 1-888-862-4874. You can call us Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. to talk to our live helpline advocates. Other time you can leave voice message, and you can email us maitri@maitri.org, or you can visit our website www.maitri.org to know about our services. And we are ending this show with a lot of hope, and that we will be able to fight this unprecedented situation. We will be able to help a lot of people who really need our help. And we are hoping that all our community members will support Maitri and will help us to do our work. And you can donate to Maitri. You can visit our website and donate on our website. Your small donation will help big time with someone really need that donation. And stay well, stay happy, stay healthy. Thank you. And keep listening Maitri podcast, Between Friends, Conversation with Maitri.